Hello and welcome back to 1000 Gurus. Please welcome my guest, Murphy Pines.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thank you for stopping by. We had a pre-recording or like a pre-meeting session beforehand just to kind of get through everything and figure out the flow. But I think it was really productive. I feel like we have a good path forward for this conversation. But yeah, so thanks for being here again. So let me go into how I met you. Let's see. Oh, so Yeah, so we met through a mutual friend, my friend Lyndon, who was on season one for this show. And then you've been helping me build out my relationship coaching website and then branding and all that stuff. And then recently we had a photo shoot and that was a lot of fun. We'll not be showing those photos. Um, Murphy kind of had me do some like cutesy photos for my girlfriend. And yeah, they're pretty embarrassing.
It's my best work.
Yeah, arguably, that's very subjective. But yeah, so I know you're up to a lot of different things that we'll probably get into. A lot of them art related. You're a very creative person. And I was happy to have you on the show because you were, we when we first met at the coffee shop, I
Mhm.
think we had like a really good conversation. And
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that you'd be like, you're a veteran to being on podcasts. You've had your own before. And
Mhm.
so I thought that you'd be a great guest for our audience. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's exciting. Yeah,
Mhm.
we had like a really great conversation then. Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm
Any other clarifications or stuff that you're up to that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty busy in the last month working on a project that was pretty impulsive
Yeah.
actually. It started. I had the idea, and then 3 days later, I was signing a lease.
Mm,
And no regrets so far.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Any project that starts with "I signed a lease" is probably gonna be fun.
I'm terrified. I'm so scared. I've been
Yeah.
like waking up in excitement and terror at 6 a.m. every morning. That never
Mm,
happens to me. So
mm.
yeah. So well, I mean, just to like actually say what
Yeah.
what
Please.
I'm
Yeah.
doing. I'm opening up a community creative arts space, where you do like workshops and crafts and like co-working.
Mm,
And I just honestly just I needed an excuse to make a space where I can hang out with all my friends. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That's also what this podcast is, an excuse for me to catch up with people. So I think we're birds of a feather in that sense.
hmm
Cool. Anything else?
Uh, that's pretty much like my uh what's on the forefront of my mind right
Nice. All right, so I brought this little cool deck of cards created by yours truly, Murphy Pines. So this was a gift, and so I really appreciate it. So thank you again for this. But it is basically, well, I have an idea, but would you like to explain what this deck of cards is?
Yeah. Okay. So, a few years ago, I made a Kickstarter campaign. Because while I was in lockdown, I just decided to draw like one thing every day in the same format. And then a friend of mine was like, "You could turn this into a deck," because I had about like 50 cards. And I was like, maybe I should. And
Mm,
so I did the scary thing and made a Kickstarter. And it just, yeah, it took off, and I was able to get it funded twice, almost twice over.
dang, that's crazy.
And so it's basically I wrote out a list of like 50 different ways that I tools I use to feel better, like or just like navigate difficult feelings. So I kind of paired the drawings with the words and came up with this deck. It's called the I'm Here deck
I'm here.
because it's here for you.
Yeah. I'll link everything so you can check it out if you are interested in getting your own deck. And so it has these really cool, cute looking like photos or like drawings and stuff like that. The card's really nice. It's like kind of shiny laminated on the side. So this is for the people listening and they don't like know what I'm holding. But it's kind of like a tarot cards, sort of like length cards, right? And then all the drawings in the front. And then I guess this is the one. There was two decks that you gave me. One of them was mostly like images,
hmm
but this one has like words and I guess intention. So I thought it'd be nice to kind of go through the deck and kind of pull out something as like a intention for this episode and see since it's also related.
Yes.
Yeah, would you like to pull? Does it make sense for me to just like kind of do this and then you can pull one, or what do you
Yeah,
want to?
I
How do
would
you do
love
it?
for usually sometimes I'll let other people pull cards. We could also take
Okay.
turns pulling cards
Oh,
together.
okay, okay. How about
Uh-huh.
is you just pull from the top?
You could pull from the top or bottom, or sometimes you shuffle until something pops out.
Okay.
But yeah, like let's do maybe we could just like fan it out and then
Yeah,
like pick one for each
that's
other.
what I thought.
Okay.
It's like kind of like a magic trick sort of
Yeah,
thing where
yeah.
it's like,
Pick
all
a
right,
card.
here's your
Card.
destiny.
It's my destiny.
Good thing I am a expert card shark, and I actually made you pull that one. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I
oh,
didn't.
oh, we'll see. Oh,
Imagine.
oh,
What is it?
okay. Very seasonally appropriate.
What does it say?
It says bloom. It's time to blossom into yourself.
Okay.
Just like all the flowers that are blooming in the
Nice.
spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a card that's speaking to me because it's also a card about potential energy, right? Like you when you're like a bud and you're just like it doesn't look like anything's happening, but there's a lot happening on the inside. And it's like you're taking all this time to prepare and eventually it just explodes, it pops open and you're like, "Wow, I'm here."
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how it's been feeling like these days in
Oh,
my
yeah.
life.
So you feel
Yeah.
like it really resonates. Cool.
Definitely.
And then, like, in this, there's like a guidebook in here that kind of has like an explanation, if I'm not wrong, about like each kind of card.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you fan this one out and then I pull one?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Do that. Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to make an oracle deck that feels like a hug from a friend.
I like it.
Yeah,
We love hugs from friends,
it's true.
even if they are flat card based friends.
Yeah, flat friends.
Flat friends.
That's what I'm gonna call these cards.
Nice. I like the side lamination, like kind of like the
Rainbow.
yeah, the rainbow. It's
Yeah.
very like I'm almost on shrooms. Not that I know what that's like. Okay, so
I
mine
do.
nice. Mine says look outside. So for the viewers, I guess you'll have to get your own deck and see. It says maybe we've been staying inside a box. What's outside? What's possible? Hmm. I like it. Let me think about this. I need to look outside. I've been in a box, or just kind of ponder what is on the outside and what's possible. I kind of like it. It's like potential, or like thinking about what is beyond the space that I've been kind of focusing on, and kind of going beyond that, because there's probably a lot more out there.
Yeah, definitely. We do put ourselves in boxes. We're kind of trained to do that a lot of times.
And then we go out in a box. Yay.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah.
If not cremated, but you know.
We're getting emo here now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the topics. You ready? Okay, so first one, we already went through this beforehand, but it is like origin story, main influences, current career trajectory, and aspirations. I like to have the audience get to know my guest, kind of like the TLDR sort of thing, and we can kind of dive deeper into what makes the most sense. But main questions: where did you grow up? What were your main influences? And how have your life aspirations changed over time from when you were young to where you are today?
Okay, cool. Let's start. My villain origin story.
Villain
right?
origin story.
Yeah. I grew up in Hong Kong. I was born in New York and then moved around a bunch. And then landed in Hong Kong for about 10 years, from the age of 10 to 18, which isn't 10 years, but yeah, like around that
It's
time.
pretty formative then.
Yeah, definitely. And I lived 3 years in Korea too. Yeah, I just like jumped around a lot, like because my family was moving. I went to 6 different high schools, I believe, and like
Dang.
middle schools and elementary schools, and then lived in 3 different continents, countries. I'm not sure. Yeah, and definitely moved 16 times houses wise, so very good at moving. Made me great at adapting to things and not so great at maintaining relationships past 2 years.
I see. You're like, I'm used to things changing up, so I think this is a little bit too long.
Yeah. No, I'd have a best friend for like a year, and then it would just be like, yeah, I'm okay now. Yeah, we're good.
Nice, I like that. I've never thought about like having a lease on friends.
No. It's a very new thing for me to
Right.
have friends for over 10 years.
Wait, so and you've said is this the longest you've stayed in an area, or okay? How long has it been?
Definitely. I moved here 2014, so
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, so
11
about 11 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess what were your career or life aspirations when you were younger, and then comparing it to like today?
Oh man. Okay, so in middle school, I had 2 interests, like 3 interests. So it was I wanted to design chairs, specifically chairs.
Design chairs.
Yeah, I just wanted to be a product designer for chairs. And then quickly changed to media and advertising. And like that, like I just loved guerrilla advertising and like psychology, social experiments, and things. And
You say guerrilla
yeah,
advertising?
guerrilla, like kind of like guerrilla warfare, but like so you're just using like different tactics to like get people's attention and stuff.
Could you give us an example of that? I'm not familiar.
There's like it's like kind of creative out of the box kind of thing. So one I can think of from that I remember seeing on the internet like ages ago was like you know how like glass elevators will have like a will like do this thing where it like there's like layers, right? And so the glass elevator would have an Oreo on it, and there'd be a glass of milk on the bottom floor, and
Oh.
so it would just dunk every time the elevator
Mm.
goes down. It's like things that are kind of like hidden in plain sight or kind of playful and things like that. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I see guerrilla advertising.
Okay. Okay. Sorry,
Um,
I cut you off. So
no,
then
yeah, uh
chairs,
huh.
guerrilla advertising.
And then naturally that led to film studies, like in my high school course. And then I went to film school, where I was like, yeah, I went to film school, like, because, you know, like the natural path to success for that would be to, you know, be a successful Hollywood director who wins Oscars.
Mm.
So that for a while, that was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Did you
Um,
have like inspirations that kind of made you want to pursue that? Or was it just inherently about the film industry that you wanted to be a part of?
a little bit of both. So part of it was just, it was the natural, like, it felt like the course that I was set to go on. Um, I didn't really question it that much until later on in college. And also because I just grew up with a lot of, like most of my quality time with my family was watching movies and TV shows. And so I really liked Pixar at the time, RIP. um, and yeah, I think I really wanted to work at Pixar or any, yeah, just one of those big companies. And yeah, for some reason, when I entered film school, I had the choice of given the choice of either doing animation or film, and I knew I would be good at animation, so I chose film.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
so I knew it was going to be way too easy for me.
Oh, I see.
Hmm.
Okay, so you wanted like the challenge or the growth opportunity.
Yeah.
I like that.
Otherwise, I would be stuck in a room very comfortably and not talk to anybody ever
Oh.
again.
You don't like comfortable rooms where you don't talk to people?
I like it too much,
Oh, I see, I
unfortunately.
see. Okay, so then any more sort of inflection points that led you to where you are today? And then the next question after that is like, what are your current until the future aspirations?
Hmm. Um, can you repeat that?
Yeah, yeah. So any other big like major influences that kind
Hmm.
of guided you towards this? I don't know if there were turning points that like, oh,
Mm.
I made a hard pivot at this point in time, or oh, this thing happened and then I kind of saw something different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Later in college, I the Academy Awards came to do a presentation and showed us a sizzle reel and a trailer of the Oscars
Mm,
to a group of college students, and I was like, oh, this is bullshit.
mm.
I don't want an Oscar anymore. I don't want that.
What
It's
like so
lame.
what about it?
Uh-huh.
What about it like made you feel that way?
Because I think because I was such a like I knew so much about marketing and all that stuff already, I was like, why am I being marketed to?
Oh.
And that kind of devalued it for me where I was like, what are you trying to sell me? You're just like a bunch of white dudes like making judgments on art. Like I don't need that.
I see, I see.
Yeah. And then you know, eventually I moved out here to LA to get into Hollywood. And then the natural sort of like everybody at film school would tell me, because I went to film school in New York, they were like, you're supposed to get on a desk. Which you're supposed to be an assistant to somebody who works in Hollywood.
Mm,
And I was a shit assistant. I was so bad. Um,
like in what way?
uh, I no organizational skills.
Mm,
I was, you know, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, so it's just like
mm.
all over the place,
Wrong coffee orders.
wrong coffee orders,
Yeah.
stuttering, saying really awkward things on the phone.
Mm,
You know, like not being able to follow certain protocol just because I forgot. And eventually, like after a month of being an assistant, my friend, he's my friend now, but my boss fired me after a month. Was like, I'm so sorry, but we need a functioning assistant. Um, And so I was like, "Oh, I'm cooked because that's all there is, right? The path." And he was like, my boss was like, gave me the best advice I ever got, which was never work at a desk again. And instead, I followed that path of like, okay, well, how can I challenge that? And so I applied to Buzzfeed. I got in there, um, and it set me on a different path. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
So then, at that point, got into BuzzFeed. What were you doing there? And then what was like the pivot, or I guess like what was that journey like?
At BuzzFeed, I made a like I got rid of my fear of making things because we were constantly churning out content every day. Like it was like somewhere between 2 to 5 pieces of content a
Wow.
week. And like it definitely made me jaded. I was very tired and grumpy about it. um, and it also made me really hungry to develop my own artistic voice because they made it very hard for you to have your own artistic voice. Um,
Is it because they wanted you to like follow their script or their like path or what they wanted to produce?
Partially that it was like a branding thing, and it
Mm.
was also this like save your best work for BuzzFeed kind of
Mm.
thing. Or I mean, yeah. A lot of people made a why I left BuzzFeed.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah, I've
Remember
heard some
that
of those.
era?
Yeah, yeah,
I never made one because I was let go with like a bunch of people, and
yeah.
I just didn't really have the energy to. But there were a lot of reasons to both love and hate BuzzFeed,
Mm.
and part of it was that they were very unfairly treating their producers.
I see, I see. Okay, so then left BuzzFeed, and then you felt like you now you got over that sort of doing and creating thing, and now you want to do your own thing. So what was the next step after that?
Freelancing, which was terrifying. And yeah, it was basically like, training wheels are off, and now I got to kind of self promote, which is also scary as heck. And then, like, yeah, I think it was a matter of trusting myself. And I think in that process, I decided to start writing comics and posting them on Instagram, um, just as a way for me to process my own feelings. But it ended up being a really good way for me to develop the skills needed to like tell really succinct stories and also capture specific feelings and like explore them. And that kind of fed into my current sort of artistic voice theme that keeps coming up, which is feelings in art. Yeah.
I like it. So I guess well, I know you're doing a lot of different things, but how would you? I don't want to say label yourself, but what are the things that you're doing now, and then what is in store for you in the future? Like, what do you aspire to do?
Mm. So after my Kickstarter, and then like now at this point, like something that I think we were talking about earlier, like if the past me found out what I was doing now for my day job, and then what I mostly do day to day, they think I was a failure. Like, why aren't you at the Oscars? Like, why aren't you hanging out with the celebrities? And it's like, because I'm hanging out with cooler people, and I love my life. Like, I'm no longer chasing something that is defined by what other people view as valuable because I define it for myself. And yeah, like in my day to day now, I just like, I do what I do to pay the bills, which currently for me is like social media content creation. And then the rest of my time I spend building out my dreams, which, has changed over time. It's no longer about like monetary gain, or I mean, that's also pretty nice. I like stability.
We like money,
Yeah.
helps us
But
do things.
exactly. But it's the things that I want to do with that money has changed. Now I just want to mostly just give it away to all my friends. Like I just want
Mm.
to share it. That's my future dream, is just to be able to like um share like abundance with friends.
Mm.
And one of my steps I'm taking for that goal is to create a space, like a community space, creative space where everyone can kind of like hang out and yeah, be creative together.
Yeah, I like it.
hmm
So this might segue into the next thing, but the last thing on this topic, and I put this in quotes because you mentioned it in the form, which is how queerness informs how I love my life. So,
Mhm.
would you like to elaborate on that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big major pivots that I hadn't mentioned yet, which is like kind of both informed my artistic and personal life, is that I realized I was queer at Buzzfeed, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah.
Mm,
And then yeah, that was like 27. When I was 27, which is pretty late bloomer. But yeah, I've been pretty much on autopilot my whole life, kind of defining who I was based on what other people expected of me, other people meaning my parents.
mm,
And then the process of coming out, like in that process, they decided to disown me. And that was incredibly difficult, but also kind of the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to really realize what I had been neglecting, which was just who I was and like my authenticity. Barely knew, you know, like what my favorite color was. When you're on autopilot, your room looks like shit. You're not taking care of yourself. Classic trans story, actually. There are a lot of people like that who are like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just floating through life. And I realized I was queer, and then years later, I knew figured out I was trans. And so now I'm like, I went from being sort of trans masc, more like masculine, heavily masculine, and then I kind of like went back to the middle because I think that's where I'm the most comfortable. I like
mm,
being androgynous and kind of confusing.
mm. We like we like confusion
hmm
for ourselves and for others. So maybe you answered this, but I'm curious on elaborating on the last part, which is like how I love my life. So I guess if I'm trying to understand correctly, so kind of identity, this thing that we all struggle with, and figuring out who we are and self awareness. So then once you've found that comfort space of where you think you are, where you think you belong, how has that informed how you love your life? Maybe you touched upon it, but I'm just kind of digging deeper. Maybe there's nothing
hmm
there, but
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot there. Um, I think that and the part about autopilot, it's this idea that you're not questioning anything in your life. You're just kind of like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. For example, something that caused me a lot of anxiety in my early relationships was that I grew up being told like if your boyfriend doesn't buy you at least a dozen roses for Valentine's
mm,
Day, he doesn't think you're worthy of love. And so it's this weird thing where I didn't give a shit about roses, but every time Valentine's Day rolls around, I would feel like a nervous school teacher grading papers. I was like, you better succeed in this, otherwise my parents aren't going to be happy. It's not even me. Um and then these days I'm like, fuck all the rules. Like none of this, it's like waking up from the Matrix. You're like, wait a minute, like I can just be whoever I want, and I can also navigate relationships the way that two people truly want to authentically and not what they're expected of. Like, yeah. So that's kind of where how my queerness is. That's kind of how my queerness. Let me try that again. That's how my queerness informs my life decisions, including androgyny, where all of a sudden all the gendered rules are gone. I don't have to be the one opening doors for people on a date, but I could. There's this idea of like, do I want to do it? That's the important question, not should I.
I see.
hmm
So it's like stepping into your authenticity and realizing that all these constraints put on us by either society or our family or friends or whatever like that was so constricting because it didn't feel right, and we were kind of just like you said going on autopilot, and it's really freeing in that sense. And then you can love more, right? Yourself and other people.
hmm
I like that a lot. Um, all right, so let's it's not really a pivot, but you mentioned community and community building a lot. So my next question is, how do you approach community? What role does it play in your life, and why is it important? Maybe some of this is intuitive to you and the audience, but you could elaborate on that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, community has become the most important aspect of my life for me. And I think part of it was when I started therapy like about 7 or 8 years ago, one of the big questions was, "What's your support network?" Um, and my therapist was like helping me build out a support network that isn't just my partner. And that really helped a lot because I found myself going from relationship to relationship and just kind of like latching on to whatever they had. So their friends became my friends, and once we broke up, it was like I was just left stranded.
Gone, yeah.
Yeah. And so I really spent a lot of time building friendships all over, like of from any all different backgrounds. I just wanted to create that sense of like, oh, I'm connected to this web of people, and also like more than human, like friends, like our pets, trees that are in our neighborhood. They're all part of our relationships and part of the community.
Mm. So many things you touched on that are future questions in this list. So we'll see how much we get to. So you mentioned in the form codependent relationship patterns. So that might be a good kind of next idea. But what ideas do you have on this topic, and what do you think the audience might gain some insights from?
Oh man. Yeah. That was one of the biggest points that like I was tackling during therapy was like realizing how easy I get enmeshed in relationships and lose myself. That happened a lot with even my relationship to my dog. Like I was like starting to like the edges were blurring, and I was like, "Oh, you are an extension of me, and therefore I need to be controlling everything that you do."
Mm.
And yeah, I started letting go of a lot of that. Realized that a lot of that stems from early childhood trauma. Like I grew up getting used to having somebody else define my value and worth for me, and like I would have to predict everybody's mood in order to win affection and love, and even a right to be alive.
Mm.
um, and so unlearning that is a process, and part of it is that healing doesn't mean you're suddenly what's the word, like invulnerable to all of the triggers that you had. Still gonna get triggered. It's just a matter of now you have tools to kind of get out of it, and recognize what happened, and kind of just make sense of it and make it part of your story.
Mm.
Hmm.
What is one of the things that you feel like you've learned in that process that helped you a lot that you think someone could benefit from if they're in a similar situation?
Hmm. Um, I would say if you find yourself in a pattern of codependency, which a lot of us, I'm still in a cycle of that I'm continuing to untangle. Um, Self compassion, very important, because a lot of shame comes up whenever you kind of recognize the cycle and that's happening. And then it's both self compassion and I think curiosity is extremely important. In that, like, when you approach something with curiosity, it kind of minimizes the fear that comes up. It's curiosity. Uh, I wouldn't say kills fear, but tames it.
Mm.
Hmm.
Right. Or at the very least, refocuses your attention, right?
Hmm.
So that you're now, fear might still be there, but at least you're focused on the thing that you want to be focused on.
Hmm.
Could you elaborate on this idea of redefining how we look at and organize relationships?
Yeah, I think it ties into the idea of queerness too, with like queering the way that we approach relationships in life. And I've been a practicing like relationship anarchist and solo polyamorous for a long time, which sounds really intense, but basically it's just being like, I'm going to define what I want and what other people in relationship to me want in the most authentic way possible.
Mm.
And so yeah.
You said relationship anarchist.
Hmm.
It almost sounds like a joke, but like no, I'm you know what I mean. But I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of funny. But like, what is? So you're saying just basically not being defined by these normal rules, or like kind of figuring out what works for both of you, or sort of thing.
It means burn the whole system
Right. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Like every for everyone's relationship. You know what? Screw your marriage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Through societal and norms and
Yeah. Yeah.
expectation, which is like essentially part of it, but like in a more, I don't approach it in that like what's the word, intensity. Because I think the main point of all of that is that everybody has agency and autonomy, and the right to express what they want. Um, and then like yeah, and that can look like anything. You could be monogamous and a relationship anarchist. You can be non-monogamous and a relationship anarchist. You can even be asexual and aromantic and never have, uh, like be in like a romantic relationship in a traditional sense and still be that. It's more of a philosophy and an approach to relationships more than anything.
I see.
Hmm.
Okay. Anything else on redefining how we look at and organize relationships? Any thoughts that I we might have missed?
For me, what's really changed my life about this approach to life is that I've decentered romance in my life in pretty big ways. Where I've started romanticizing everything, which is really fun. Actually, it's really nice
How
to
does
be
that
like,
manifest? Like, what do you mean by that?
it's like seeing this like um overwhelming beauty in every moment in my life and in every relationship, whether romantic or platonic or whatever else. Like, so, like, I just find it, everything is just meaningful and special,
Mm.
including my like morning talks with my, when I run into one of my neighbors. That's like, yeah, it's kind of like seeing everything in a poetic way. Yeah.
I like that a lot. It kind of reminds me of, and maybe this is my own weird connection, but what is that movie? It's called. Is that one movie with Rachel McAdams? Maybe it's Time Traveler's Wife, or maybe it's one of those other ones where it's like, no, the dude he can go back in time. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where he can go back in time.
About time.
Is about time.
Mm.
That one. Okay, it's the two time ones. Anyways, ugh. So yeah, so the big takeaway I got from that movie is like the dude can go forward and back in time, and it's only the guys in his family or something like that, and he lives his life, but he learns from his dad that the best way to do it is to live those days the first time and experience what it's like, but then go back and now experience it with more gratitude and love.
Hmm.
And that completely changes how you experience your life. And
Hmm.
obviously, we don't have the ability to go back in time and relive days, but I thought it was a very good lesson or takeaway or kind of like theme,
Hmm.
which is you don't have the ability to go back, but you can appreciate the day as if it was the second time you're going through it. So I really like that idea, and it kind of reminds me of that. And something I wish I could do more of is sometimes we get into our own heads and we get frustrated by those things, or we don't really appreciate what we have in front of us. And then maybe retrospectively, we think about, wow, that was such a great month or day or week or year. But then it's like you could just appreciate it in the moment, but it's
Hmm.
so hard to do, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I may get a little dark
Do,
here,
do it.
we were all emo kids once, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was definitely tough, like, going through what I did with my parents and stuff. There was low points where, I mean, like, pretty much up until like maybe the last few years, I've been like more consistently suicidal, and like every time I have a close call, it's almost like, it is kind of like having a new lease on life, and you realize like, oh my god, wait, like there's still so many things that are calling my name. There's all these reasons to stay. And one of the cool things I heard, from my own subconscious, like one of those like hypnosis classes where they were like, yeah, take 10 steps down the stairs and open the door. What do you see? Kind of thing.
Mm,
And it was like your higher self has a message for you. What is it? And you just kind of whatever the first thing that pops up in your head is the message. For me, it was like my higher self was like, you can leave anytime. Anytime. You can leave anytime.
mm,
And I was like, "Oh, you're right. So why won't I stick around and find out what happens? Why not?" Yeah.
mm, mm.
And that made me a lot more of a whimsical person than I used to be.
Interesting. So
Mhm.
it's like, hey, the exit's always there. So why don't you just stay and, have fun or something like that?
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah, step into the unknown. That's
Yeah.
why I have this tattoo.
Oh.
I don't know how to show it. It's a portal, and it's kind
Ah.
of like, in tarot there's the Fool card.
Mhm,
It's like this jester type that's like going off into an adventure. That's how I like to approach life.
mhm. Okay, so kind of a similar vein. So last night I was playing this card game called how deep will you go? It's one of those question card games you play with friends, and you kind of pull a question, and it's like levels of like depth. And so I was playing with my friend, and the card that we pulled, one of the cards we pulled last night was like, why what keeps you going, or like why have you continued on? And so it was my question, meaning I was supposed to answer it. And my friend was like, wait, does this mean like, why haven't you offed yourself? And I'm like, I interpret this question as, what motivates you, right? But
Right.
then in retrospect, I was like, it does kind of sound like, why haven't you offed yourself yet? Thanks, cards. Was just trying to get to know my friend, and now you're making me question my
Why are
existence.
you still
Why
here?
are you exactly? My cards are saying, why are you still here? I don't know, bro. Okay, you know what? I'm just playing a game. I don't know. Thought that was pretty timely and relevant.
Uh,
Okay. Let's see. On that note, so one of the things that in the list is, or questions I had for you is, how do you, or what do you, how do you approach this idea of quote unquote healing from trauma, and any parts you think that people might get wrong, or insights that might help people to navigate their own like journey of healing from trauma?
yeah, that's definitely a really good question. I think I touched on a little bit earlier where it's when you heal, you don't heal from your triggers and you're suddenly free from all the, symptoms of trauma. That's kind of baked into the wiring of who we are. And that's kind of part of the acceptance of it. It's something I've been on a journey of is like the idea of grace keeps coming up. That you kind of uh, accept something with this sense of peace and be like, oh, this is something that happens sometimes. And I'm able to be like, okay, that happened without judgment. And then be like, how do I move forward with this? There is this whole industry around healing where it's like, you got to be better. You got to, level up, like upgrade, be the best version of yourself, higher self, like all these. No, just be the best that you can be in the moment that you can, and keep going and don't give up. That's all there is to it. And it doesn't have to be this like grand goal. Um, the end At the end of the day, what it is just finding a sense of presentness and groundedness and peace as much as you can. And of course, there's going to be things disrupting it because that's part of life. We're, I don't know, maybe we're in a glass jar or something, and people shake it. There's no control over that. Um, but what we do have control over is how we navigate it afterwards.
Mm. So my question is, how do you approach then getting to that point where you can more control, or have this sort of peace and acceptance and grace? Because I'm thinking, as an audience member, easier said than done,
Mm.
obviously, and I would like to get to that place. But do you have any thoughts or tips or advice on how to get to that point?
Yeah. Well, there's like, that path can look different for anybody. For me, it was a mixture of like slightly concerning spiritual awakening stuff, like where I was like, I'm gonna astral project.
Oh, this is where the mushrooms come in. That's how these cards were designed.
Surprisingly, I didn't take hallucinogens until very recently.
Oh, okay.
But I did do a lot of different like types of meditation and stuff early on. Kind of stuff you do when you hit rock bottom and look for some kind of meaning. And yeah, I think it was this long process of very messy, just being messy. I'm still messy. And then yeah, like for me, I've done stuff like some uh, things that were something that were effective was like spell work. So I started doing like practicing different kind of magical practices and rituals that are very specifically designed for me and meaningful to me. And so things like inner child healing, um, I have meditated and traveled back in time, either figuratively or literally, however you choose to look at it, to my past self. I met my past self and gave them a hug in a moment that they really needed it. And to me, that the emotional release that came from that was very real. Maybe I did create a time paradox. Who knows? Maybe I'm Rachel McAdams.
Don't we all want to be Rachel McAdams?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that. It's funny because, wow, last night I was having a conversation with the same friend playing the same card game. And it was like, I don't know what the question was, but I was telling her that one of the reflections that I have is, oh, we're talking about like our younger self to our current self. And I was like, I really wish I could travel back in time to meet my younger self, like let's say my 11 or 12-year-old self, because my current self, I know myself pretty well. I do a lot of daily reflections, so I kind of know where my mind is at. But I would love to go back to like my sixth grade self and kind of like open up my mind and figure out what my motivations were. And I broke it down to this explaining how I can probably look back and think of, okay, during this time in my life, these were the focus points because I was thinking about school or girls or this sort of thing or dancing. So I can kind of put together maybe what my motivations were, but I don't really have a slice of like, I don't have journal entries from back then. Like I started in high school, not in like middle school. So
Mhm.
I can kind of pick my brain from those periods, but not from when I didn't have anything recorded. So I was like, I really wish I could talk to my younger self and I wouldn't even say anything. I would just want to listen,
Mhm.
just to understand my younger self. And I would imagine maybe I'm similar, but I still don't really know because it was so long ago.
Mhm.
And it's just crazy because you bring that up and I'm like, wow, I was just talking about this last night.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. I do think about like the idea that there is an unchanging part of us that is like the core of who we are, and sometimes it gets lost in the noise and the trauma of growing up, um, and that like fundamental part of us is still somewhere in here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you, well, I know you said you moved around a lot, but have you ever had that experience where you reconnected with someone from way long time ago and they kind of gave you perspective on how they saw you back then? And either it's changed or it's not changed. But like for me, it was like my high school reunion and it was like a 10-year, right? And so I was meeting with my high school like classmates and they were like, man, Jared, you have not changed in a good way. Like, meaning obviously we're all older and wiser, but like fundamentally I was a similar person, like lighthearted, fun, a little bit deep philosophical, but generally just like playful and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that. I really appreciated how I'm like, wow, I'm pretty consistent. Like nothing I'm glad that nothing crazy happened in my life where I'm just completely like flipped. But it was nice to get that reflection back at me where they were like, yeah, you're the same person. I was like, nice. But I don't know if you had that experience or anything similar.
Yeah, I have met up with one of my friends from high school that like yeah, I hadn't seen in person in a long time, and we met up like she visited me maybe a couple years ago, and she was like, "Yeah, remember when you for like the school talent show you went up and just sang Gloria Gaynor's 'I Will Survive.'"
It's
Um
a good song.
It's a great song, but she was like, "I don't know, your song choice, and just your complete, like, um, what's lack of self-consciousness?" Like, she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you don't give a fuck." And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I just
Yeah.
did whatever I felt like." And I think that part hasn't changed at all. Like, I really, could give less of a fuck what other people think about my decisions,
Mm,
which is really funny. Like, I do think that there are parts of me that have changed, externally and otherwise. I think I've become a more confident person. But fundamentally, I think that have always been a weirdo
mm.
and a fucking freak.
Yeah.
It's great.
Hey, we love weirdos. We're all weirdos, right? It's just what kind of standards are you holding yourself to?
Mhm.
I think last thing I want to ask on this topic is this idea of you mentioned okay, hold on. There's okay, maybe pick and choose your adventure. One is can our relationship to nature transform how we love each other? And the second one is the idea of creating the world we want to see by living in it instead of waiting for permission, if you want to elaborate on that, or
Oh
either
yeah.
one of those two.
Okay. So with something I've been sort of navigating and learning and embracing recently, maybe in the last few years, is my relationship to nature. I've grown up in most of like very urban like environments and cities for a long time. And so like I haven't really been like a nature person, but I enjoyed it. And I've been more actively learning about nature. I've started gardening, and the more you learn about it, the more like the separation disappears, where it's no longer this niche topic.
Mm,
It's not a hobby or a lifestyle. It's what we should be focusing on. It's where we learn the most from the wisdom. Our body is nature. It's made of nature. And something I brought the book actually, but there's a book that's been really blowing my mind called "Returning Home to Our Bodies."
mm.
by Abigail Rose Clark, and it talks about our um, like relationship to our body and the wisdom that it already holds in the way that it works, like biologically. Like cell membranes are both uh, create a boundary, but it's also semi-permeable, so it lets things in, and you can apply that to the way that we navigate relationships.
Mm. Do you have any other examples on that sort of removing the boundary between you and nature and or I guess our body?
Yeah, I think one of the books that really changed my views about that was Braiding Sweetgrass,
Mm.
and
Oh,
it
that's on my list.
yeah,
Mm.
highly recommend it. And it's this just like um, what's the word? Like it kind of reframes everything in a way where, um, like, oh, this is who we're supposed to like. This is what we forgot in the whole mess of industrialization, colonization, and all these things. We have become separated from what is essentially, I think, a collective organism. We're all supposed to be connected to all of these, all of the life around us, including rocks and trees and all these things. And um, it actually helps me a lot, even with loneliness. I don't feel as lonely anymore because now I talk to trees.
Mm.
As tree huggery as that sounds, that is actually part of it. We are in relation with trees. We're in relation with the grass, with the dandelion that you see on the ground, and they're all friends. Like I like taking my morning walks and flirting with the flowers that are nearby.
Hey,
I'm
good
gonna be
looking.
yeah, just
How's
like
your morning?
hey cutie, like I'm gonna be such a weird old person.
I like it.
Yeah. So nature is family.
Nice. I think I've already admitted this on the podcast, but like my dream one day is to essentially be a tree hugger, but to like live in nature or forest and be disconnected from social media specifically, but also the greater society and just kind of like be more at peace and one with nature. But in a sense of I know because it's obvious when any of us go outside and touch grass or be in a park or go somewhere where it is naturey, we do feel better and it feels natural. And I think once you have that self awareness or attunement with your body, then you can be like, yeah, being in nature is really feels good and it
Mhm.
feels natural. So I do aspire to do that one day. One day. So yeah, maybe we'll be flirting with the flowers together one day. That is my dream. Sorry. So anything else on this? The last thing, which is creating the world that we want to see by living it instead of waiting for permission. I don't know if you've touched on it already, but
Mm,
anything else?
oh yeah, that definitely links back to my approach to queerness too. And being trans is I no longer follow the rules, right? Which means I'm like, how do I want my body to look and feel? You can customize your, character however you want. And when I found out that I can change the pitch of my voice, use with like hormone therapy, I was okay. Let's do it. Let's go.
Mm.
And I'm just happier now. I like how my voice sounds in a way that that discomfort is gone. Um, and I think that a lot of people have different kind of discomforts that they're scared to explore because it's not normal, like, or that like seen as standard. And I think that trans people especially are the living embodiments of, oh, we can create our own world and live it, even if there is no pre-existing framework for it. We're like, nah, I'm here anyways. So including the world that we want to see, where I want to see a world that's like beyond capitalism, beyond all these the kind of frameworks, beyond imperialism, and these systems of harm and extraction. I want there to be a world where we exist, where we don't have to money isn't part of the equation, where we can just be um there for each other and help each other for the sake of it. And there are ways to do that now. You can help somebody without expecting anything in return. There you have it. You did it.
Mm.
That world is now real for you. Yeah.
Mm.
And you just keep doing that and the world will change.
I like it. Um, it kind of what you're talking about reminded me of, in video games where you can character select, but then people, buy their own skins and modify their characters. It's like most of us are like, okay, you get to choose from one or two characters. And then it seems like trans people's like, well, we can customize our person as much as we want. This is way more fun. I'm like, oh, wait, actually, that sounds more fun than just
Yeah,
picking one or two. I
exactly.
like it. Nice. Any last thoughts on that topic before we move to rapid fire?
Yeah, I mean, the quickest way to changing the world is just living it. Yeah. hmm
I like
Just
it.
be the change you want to see in the
There you
world.
go. Yeah, I was thinking of the quote that's on Seven Leaves, which is "Be the change you want to see," attributed to Gandhi. But if you read it, it's like "Betak change." Because okay, weird tangent. Have you ever been to Seven Leaves?
No,
Okay, so it's just a boba shop, right? And then it has the quote.
that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, so there's a poster, right? And
Uh-huh.
it says "Be the change you want to see in the world," but it's designed like those like vision tests where it's like the first line is like big and the
Mm.
second line is smaller and smaller. So it's like that, but it's like because it's one line, it's like bet that change that so it's like cut off. So I always read it weird like that. I'm sorry. This is a peek into my brain. All
it's
right.
it's it's our version of live, laugh, love.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, rapid fire.
hmm
Cool. First one, billboard question. If you could put up a sign for millions of people to see, what would it say?
Slow down.
Slow down.
Slow the heck down. You know what? Even stop sometimes. Like,
On the freeway.
yeah, yeah.
Anarchist. Traffic
I
anarchist.
I meant it when I said burn it all down.
There you go. I like it. Well, that's it. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Next one. What is the hardest challenge you faced, and what did you learn from it?
Whoa. Rapid fire. Hardest challenge I faced and how I dealt with it. Probably like navigating what I thought would be the my worst nightmare, which is losing my parents. Um and then surviving it and realizing, oh, like I mean, sometimes I think like, oh, nothing scares me anymore because that was my worst nightmare for the longest time. Was disappointing my parents. And I'm like, oh, I'm still here, and my life is great. Yeah.
Yes.
hmm
Self-inflicted wound. Do you have a story about something that's gone wrong in your life that was your own fault and you can't blame anyone else?
Interesting. Um, I would say I don't know why self-inflicted wound made me think of this, but like, obviously there are causes for it, but I was bulimic for a long time. Um, not that I mean, I don't want to victim blame, but there is like the idea of taking responsibility for the wounds that you carry, especially the ones that you end up causing yourself because of the past wounds. And yeah, for about 2 or 3 years, I was bulimic, and then I have like haven't had a relapse in a very long time, and it's because I was able to forgive myself for it, and I had to take responsibility for what I did to myself. Because once you do something to hurt yourself, that's still a relationship, and you have to. There's going to be a part of you that's mad that you did that, and another part of you that wants to be forgiven. Yeah.
I like it. If you could redo one thing, what would you do differently? And I guess the other side of the coin is if you could give your younger self advice, what would it be now?
Well, hang on. Repeat that.
Yeah. So redo. If you could redo anything, what would it be? And then if you could give your younger self advice, because sometimes they're the same
Mm-hmm.
answer, but not always.
Weirdly, nothing. I don't have any regrets in how I've moved through life, and of course I've made mistakes, but like I think one of my ex's moms said this. Uh, what was it? Any decision you make was the best decision you could make given the information you had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, if I were to go back and tell my past self anything, it would just be thank you, and you're gonna make it through this.
In the last few years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life?
Building community, hanging out with friends a lot. Yeah, those two things, definitely.
I like it. How do you define success?
Friends. Just have lots of friends. Be friend rich. Like I that like and also be good friends with yourself.
Mm. So value friendship and nurture and cultivate those relationships, especially with yourself.
Mhm.
Mm, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try or be doing right now? And the opposite is if you knew you absolutely would fail, what would you still be doing?
Opening this community space. Um, I
For
yeah.
both?
Yeah, for both.
Mm,
Mhm.
cool. Sorry, did you want to elaborate?
Uh, yeah, I definitely want to, it's the scariest thing I've ever done so far, and I'm all for it, whether or not it crashes and burns or if it takes off.
Lovely. What's something you've been pondering recently, or something you think about often deeply? Or what is a favorite hot take you have that you feel like most people won't agree with?
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. First one is what's something you've been pondering deeply?
Mhm.
Or what's your favorite hot take that some people might not agree with, or most
Okay.
people, I guess.
Something I've been pondering deeply is uh, resisting categorization and labeling, where I think there's a lot of impulses to put ourselves in boxes, me included. I do that a lot where I'm like, even with gender, I'm like, am I gender queer? Am I gender fluid? Am I like this or that? Like it's endless and it's comforting and there's a purpose for it. Um, at the same time, it is limiting and it also creates division
Mm,
where there will be tension if there's like differences. And I think I'm more and more looking into ways where we can dissolve those borders and boundaries, not boundaries because those are important, but like those like hard lines that keep us from having conversations with people. And I think that's like a big issue in general societally.
I like that. I feel like I've had the conversation before with a friend, but a lot of stereotypes or generalizations are born out of heuristics because it's easier for our brains to put people in categories and boxes because it's like men do this, women do this, and these people do this and this, right? But it's because our brains can't handle the nuance or it's just a shortcut, right? But then that turns into those generalizations, stereotypes, and it's not accurate because life is actually very nuanced and it takes a little bit more brain power to understand that there's a lot of nuance in everything.
Hmm.
And it's kind of stepping out of that, but also realizing that some people just don't care about nuance and they prefer the generalizations. It's like, all right, fine, I guess. But yeah. Do you have any favorite hot takes or something that you think most people won't agree with, or was that mostly it?
yeah, I would say that's my hot take is like let's slow down on the labeling basically.
Nice. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made in either time, money, energy, or etc.?
Mm. Uh I would say buying my friends food.
Mm,
I just really like feeding my friends and people I love. And no amount of food that I give people is has ever been felt like a regret,
I like that.
except for
Yeah,
my
except for that one. If I could redo something, take
ex.
back all the food. Nice. Favorite recent purchase in the $50 to $100 range that has impacted your life the most in the last few months? This is the capitalism question,
Hmm.
consumerism question.
The consumerism question.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, related to the last thing. Actually, no. I want to go with something different. In the past month, you said.
Few months, 6 months, whatever.
Uh huh.
Time frame's irrelevant.
Okay. Interesting. My brain doesn't work with numbers very
Mm.
well,
Just
but
like
I did
recent,
recently.
recent. Yeah.
Um, it does have to be a product or just like something I
Anything.
spent
It could
money
be
on.
yeah, it could be service, product, whatever experience. Yeah.
I I go to like Kura revolving sushi.
I love
Yeah.
Kura. Yeah.
And when I go there, I usually spend about 60 to 70 bucks just
Mhm.
on me.
Mhm.
It's always a fucking good time.
What
It's
do you
my
like
favorite.
about Kura?
There's a lot of options. It's interactive. It's exciting. Um, and you get to try a little of everything. And who doesn't like sushi? I mean, some people do, but
Yeah.
I love sushi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I like
Uh-huh.
your answer. So, Kura, you're welcome for the plug for the, the handful of people who'll be listening to this.
Hmm.
Yeah, now I'm craving Kura.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, last rapid fire questions. Favorite books, movies, videos, articles, media, or anything at all that you share or recommend the most?
Hmm. Definitely braiding sweetgrass, and also anything written by Adrienne Marie Brown. I'm like, oh my god, please do it. Um, And also the artwork of Yumi Sakugawa is like just always spoken to me. It's so just beautifully like connective, and I like they also have a deck that came out
Mm,
recently called Cosmic Comfort. And that one is it's just like such a beautiful way to just start your morning. You just pull a card and it's
mm,
like, oh yeah, that's what I needed
Oh, so similar to like this your deck.
to hear.
What was the artist name?
Yumi
Yumi
Sakugawa.
Sakugawa. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. I will just for myself to link that later on.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That is it for rapid fire questions. You ready for ending questions?
Mhm.
So we always end with gratitude. Shout out to my mom. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my friends. I had a birthday party yesterday,
Mm. Oh, was your
just in
birthday
the park.
recently?
Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. It's actually tomorrow.
Oh, happy early birthday!
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. You are old now.
I am 33. I love it.
Nice.
Other than the joint pain,
Of
everything
course.
else is
No,
great.
yeah, same. I
Yeah.
just turned 34 like a few weeks ago. So yeah, I
Congrats.
feel the joint pain.
Yeah.
It only gets worse, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I even love the silver, just like the white hair coming up. It's nice. Uh you said what was the question?
Just gratitude.
Gratitude. Oh,
Yeah.
gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friends. I was surrounded by my favorite people. And you ever feel that where you're like, I could die right now.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would be so happy. Um, that was the feeling I got. Um, I got that feeling a lot, not because I'm want to die, but
Right,
like,
right, of course. Why have you kept going?
yeah,
You already got what you
you
wanted.
can leave
The exit's
anytime.
right there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I need a trigger warning this episode. I apologize. Sorry, was
Uh-huh.
that it? Anything else?
Yeah, just gratitude for my friends, for my cat, for my brother, just everybody in my life, and gratitude for the trees and the ground and the sky.
I love it. All right, final ask from the audience or any final takeaways you would like them to have from this conversation
Final ask
from the
from the
audience. Like,
audience.
please
Oh,
blank
like plugs and
the
stuff.
plugs exactly. You do whatever you
Hmm.
want.
Yeah. Definitely check out. Like here is my clubhouse is my handle for, especially if you're local, like, and you're looking for a place to, bring your friends and hang out and do crafty things, fun events. That's gonna be the place where I post all the things. Um, and here is my secret is my Instagram where I post more comics and stuff about emotions, relationships, mental health, all those things. So yeah, check it out. And my deck is there too.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, that was my next question was like, where can we find you if they want to see what you're up to and want to connect? So we'll link all of your socials and websites. Any final takeaways you want them to have from the conversation?
Uh yeah, I would say let go of perfectionism. Stop expecting perfection of yourself, of others, and be messy. Uh and uh, be have fun. Have fun, be playful.
Nice. Yes, I like that. So that's a great way to cap this off. Thank you so much, Murphy, for being here. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot from this conversation. I feel like it's genuinely given me a lot of insights to think about and just kind of like wrap my head around. So hopefully, the audience, you guys got the same. And I know we have a lot we could talk about. So again, as with all of my guests, if part two is in the cards, I think it'd be a lot of fun and we can explore more of these topics. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so for my final sign off, this is where the music plays. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Yes, be sure to like, subscribe, comment if you like this episode. If you want to just give a shout out, I will see it. And just a friendly reminder to always be kind to other people, especially yourself.
Mhm.
And remember that you can always learn something from someone if you take the time to listen. So thanks for being here.